Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Tuesday the 17th of June 2025. In today's episode, the G7 summit is reduced to G6 after Trump's premature departure, and Israeli tank fire kills 51 people in Gaza waiting for aid. But first, the Israel-Iran war continues. The war between Israel and Iran has continued into a fifth day, with at least 224 people killed by Israeli strikes in Iran and at least 24 people killed in Israel by Iranian strikes. Eyes now turn to the US, as on Monday, US President Donald Trump left a G7 summit in Canada early to focus on the conflict, saying in a Truth Social post that his return to Washington has nothing to do with a ceasefire, and is in fact much bigger than that. In a separate post, Trump also said that he had not reached out to Iran for peace talks in any way, shape or form, quashing hopes of a return to negotiations in the coming days. It comes amid questions surrounding whether the US will become directly involved in the conflict. When asked by reporters on Monday whether US involvement would destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, Trump said he hoped Iran's nuclear program would be wiped out long before that, saying they are not going to have a nuclear weapon. Trump also said that he expected Israeli attacks on Iran to intensify in the coming days, saying, "You're going to find out over the next 2 days. Nobody's slowed up so far." In a separate post, Trump ominously wrote that everybody should immediately evacuate Tehran. Iranian officials have not issued evacuation orders for the capital. However, the Israeli airstrikes and warnings have prompted thousands to attempt to flee from the city of 10 million people, creating large traffic jams and congestion. Analysts believe that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is hoping for Trump's assistance in destroying Iran's underground uranium enrichment sites, using the US's powerful bunker buster bombs. For context, after the publication of a report last week by the UN's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, declaring Iran to be in breach of its non-proliferation obligations, Israel, claiming that Tehran is preparing to build a nuclear bomb, launched its ongoing attack, saying the action would last as long as it takes. However, military analysts say that on its own, Israel does not have the capability to fully destroy Iran's nuclear program, but only to delay it by several months to a year. Israel would likely require US intervention to fully destroy Iran's nuclear sites, and even then, there's no guarantee that a US attack could achieve that. But despite their shared goal of preventing Iran from ever having a nuclear weapon, Israel and the US have been at odds over how to achieve it. The US and Iran had held several rounds of talks on a nuclear deal to limit Iran's uranium enrichment capacity, but which have now fallen through as a result of Israel's ongoing attack. Netanyahu, seeing an opportunity to strike Iran while it's weak, with Iran's regional proxies weakened by their own conflicts with Israel, opted to start a war rather than wait for the outcome of Trump's nuclear deal. And on Monday, US officials said that Trump had vetoed an Israeli plan to assassinate Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. However, there is a risk that Israel's attack may spark a nuclear race in the Middle East, as Iran seeks to develop a nuclear weapon as a deterrent against future Israeli attacks. Whether Iran will opt for resolving the conflict through diplomatic means and signing Trump's nuclear deal, or decide that it has little to lose with further escalation, potentially involving unconventional tactics like demonstrating a crude nuclear weapon or setting off a dirty bomb, is not yet clear. For more on the Israel-Iran war, we've got a series of videos coming out on the TLDR Global channel this week, so make sure you're subscribed to keep up with all the news. You're listening to TLDR's daily briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released videos on Poland's economic struggles, and we'll soon have a full explainer out on the US's response to the conflict. You can find the videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. Trump's premature exit from the G7 has derailed the summit, leaving the remaining 6 leaders to try and salvage it. Trump's exit means that he will miss out on planned meetings with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. Zelensky will be meeting with the remaining G7 leaders and NATO chief Mark Rutte to discuss the ongoing war in Ukraine. European leaders had been pushing for more coordinated sanctions against Russia, but before leaving, Trump signaled he was unwilling to sign up, saying that Europeans should do it first, and claiming that sanctions cost us a lot of money. Zelensky today condemned a massive overnight bombardment of Ukraine by Russia that reportedly killed at least 14 people in the capital, Kyiv. The Trump-related tensions were on further show when, after his departure, Trump launched a verbal attack on who he called publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France, adding, "Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel always gets it wrong." There were some brief moments of agreement at the summit though, with all G7 leaders, including Trump, issuing a joint statement that declared Iran is the principal source of regional instability and terror, and that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, while also calling for a de-escalation of hostilities in the Middle East, including a ceasefire in Gaza. On top of this, Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer signed off on a deal removing some trade barriers between their two countries, bringing into force parts of an earlier agreement. While the deal reduces the tariff rate on up to 100,000 British cars entering the US to 10%, it does not amend the 25% tariff on US imports of steel and aluminium. In other news, at least 51 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli tank fire in Gaza, while waiting for aid trucks to enter the territory, according to Gaza's health ministry and a local hospital. Reuters cites eyewitnesses who said that Israeli tanks fired at least 2 shells at a crowd of thousands who had gathered on the main eastern road through Khan Yunis. With at least 51 deaths and 200 people wounded, according to medics, it is one of the deadliest in a series of incidents that has seen Gazans killed while seeking scarce provisions of food. The Israeli military said in a statement that on Tuesday, a gathering was identified adjacent to an aid distribution truck that got stuck in the area of Khan Yunis and in proximity to IDF troops operating in the area, adding that it was aware of reports of, quote, a number of injured individuals from IDF fire following the crowd's approach, adding that the incident was under review and it regrets any harm to uninvolved individuals. Medics in Gaza said at least 14 other people were killed in separate Israeli airstrikes and gunfire across the Strip on Tuesday. That's all for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, if you want to keep up on all the TLDR content we've released across our channels, then subscribe to our new weekly newsletter published every Friday. You can do so by clicking the link in the description. This was a TLDR News production hosted by Georgina Finley, written by Georgina Finley and Rory Taylor, and produced by Scarlett Watchon. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again tomorrow.